How would you have survived or thrived in the modern game, do you think?
I'd have loved the modern game, Johnny. Listen, I think, look, it was a different game when we played. Certainly now, I mean, like I remember.
I've images of you with the jersey kind of, almost hanging off you, like it was just different times.
Different times, yeah. I remember we played Tip. I remember in Cusack Park in Ennis in the league game, I think in '97, and I remember Brian Lohan was coming over to the far stand to contest the ball or whatever, and he blew one of the Tip lads out of the way with his shoulder, or whatever. And I made about a 30-yard run, and there was a lovely 30-yard pass up the line, And Lohan sure rose the ball or whatever, took one look behind him, opened the shoulders, drove it as hard as he could, as high as he could. The roof nearly came off the stand, right? The home crowd loving it, and it sailed about, I'd say, 15 yards. Hands up, so that wouldn't cut it now, Johnny. Certainly, like, I mean, yeah, I think the possession game, I think, look, I'd have on one level, I'd have had the skill set maybe to maybe it would have suited me, but on another level, you look out now with every intercounty player, and you're wondering, they all 6'3" and 14.5 stone. So there's maybe that side of it I might have been found a little bit wanting,
Yeah, if you want to check back on OTB AM, I think it was Wednesday morning we spoke to, Thursday morning actually, with Tommy Walsh on, and he was speaking about the short game and how it's changed, and Tommy loved the sort of thing that you're talking about there with the Brian Lohan coming out and win the ball, but it wouldn't cut it nowadays because it's a possession game and so forth. We're going to start with Leinster just so that we can tee it up for Jamesie's take on a really brilliant Munster Championship game at the weekend. Leinster this weekend, Westmeath host Dublin in Mullingar, Laois play Wexford, and Galway play Kilkenny. I suppose we'll just start very briefly with the Westmeath and Dublin and Laois and Wexford games. Obviously Wexford will be hot favourites to win. It's not a game that should necessarily be taken for granted no more part though, Jamesy.
No way. And Laois will have no fear of Wexford, Johnny. I mean, gave them lots of it down in Wexford Park a couple of years ago. I think the last time they played in the round robin, it was, might have been the first year, but certainly it was close for long stages. I think Wexford eventually got a couple of goals and pulled away, but Wexford have to be disappointed. I mean, obviously got out of jail against Galway. They
were quite poor though, really, weren't they, for much of the game?
They were, yeah. And I mean, apart from Conor MacDonald, offered no real threat up front, and even tactically I couldn't understand the way they played, because there were times in the first half when MacDonald was effectively ploughing a lone furrow up front. I thought Rory O'Connor, after his league performance, needed to be operating closer to goal, and he seemed to be playing much further out the field. Now, they did get him further, he was in a more advanced role, but, didn't have the type of impact I think that, we'd have expected him to have, or that Wexford needed him to have. And really, I mean, MacDonald, really led the line, obviously got the goal from nothing, was fouled for the penalty, got a couple of crucial scores. And without his contribution, they're probably, and obviously the difference that Chin made coming off the bench late on, they were lucky, and they'll know they were lucky to get the draw. But I really thought last weekend they'd build on it. But in contrast, MacDonald was very, very poor. Had no real impact on the game. Whereas Rory really stepped up. I mean, he was outstanding. Showed for the ball. Scored. Missed a couple of frees that I don't think he's a natural free taker, and he looks like a 70-80% shooter when at that level now you need to be 90% plus on the frees. But like, still, when you look back on it, I mean, Wexford missed a penalty. Obviously Rory's moment of genius to put that ball across for Conor MacDonald, did everything right, but should have finished it. And I think they shot 15 wides as well. And when you do that at home, Johnny, miss those chances, miss a penalty, you're probably going to pay the price. And Dublin, to their credit, led for most of it. I thought fought very manfully. Obviously Donald Burke was outstanding. O'Donnell was excellent at fullback. Darragh Callan thought a great game in the wing for Dublin, and they were, you'd have to say that, look, they got their deserved win. And Wexford, really probably felt they needed to take 2 points, from those opening two matches, and looked like they might end up with 3, coming out after the Galway match. But it's an uphill battle now, and it looks like they've got to go to Nolan Park on the last day and get something out of that game.
Yeah, that'll be some atmosphere. Just briefly on Dublin hurlers are the same price to win Leinster as Dublin footballers are to win the All-Ireland, which is quite incredible when you think about it. They're just creeping away there nicely, and there are doubts as well about Galway and Kilkenny. You'd have to say doubts about both. What do you make of the Dubs?
Yeah, again, you look at the team sheet, and you're saying, there's no Liam Rush, and you're wondering, is there enough firepower up front? And that said, I mean, they stumbled obviously against Laois, but I mean, that was all about getting over the line and getting the result, and they probably had an eye last Saturday. Listen, O'Donnell, to me is right up there in terms of one of the best fullbacks in the game. Keane O'Callaghan's a good defender. Paddy Smith's a good defender. Conor Burke, is a good player into county level now. Plays that kind of maybe that holding midfielder role. Donald Burke, I thought, was just magnificent. Took on the responsibility. Obviously, they need him to play well, and he's obviously the main shooter. I think they can get more out of Ronan Hayes. Eamon Dillon again at times flatters to deceive, been in and out of the team. But they're honest and they're playing for each other. And I suppose one of the things, Johnny, that Matty appears to be doing at the moment is getting the best out of the players that he has. And if every day they go out and they play to their potential, then they're going to make life difficult for teams. Obviously, their ceiling isn't as high as either Galway's or potentially Kilkenny's. But they've got to go to Salthill, I think, in the last game. But they'll have Dublin in Pennell Park, and that's not an easy place to go to. And I remember the first year of the round robin, I was up there. And it was Pat Gilroy's first year, and it was an unbelievable match.
They'd have Kilkenny in Purnell Park, rather.
Yeah, Kilkenny and Purnell Park, and they did everything bar beat Kilkenny that day. So obviously Kilkenny, when things were going really well during the league, dished out a bit of a hiding. That won't have been forgotten either. So I think Dublin have put themselves in a position now, Johnny, to be one of the three. The question is, can they take Galway, Kilkenny scalp, make a Leinster final, which again, be a step forward for Matty, because Matty probably under pressure. Do you know what I mean?
At this stage,
to make progress, and making progress now means probably silverware, or certainly evidence that you're closing the gap on Kilkenny, and that would mean making a Leinster final, obviously.
So obviously it's box office, Cody v Shefflin in Pearse Stadium. To me, it looks an awful lot of this hinges on whether Conor Whelan is fit enough or not. I don't know. I thought in the Wexford game he was basically Galway's dominant forward. For all that, actually they scored. I think they got 6 points from midfield as well. But he's obviously their best attacking threat. Is that a fair assumption that they're kind of reliant, maybe in terms of having the upper hand anyway, having that pivotal man in the forward line?
Yeah, very much so, Johnny. It was noticeable when he went off that the Wexford half back line in particular, the Wexford defence just seemed to be able to get the ball away much easier. Gavin Lee's a good player, but he's young, and conditions in Wexford Park were I suppose more league in kind of February or March maybe than what you'd expect in the championship. And Whelan is just a natural ball winner. He's obviously got that physical strength, that physical power to win possession. And losing him, obviously deals a severe blow to Galway's chances if he's not available. And you just wonder, are they as well off to make sure that he's available for the Dublin match? Because hamstrings are notoriously fickle. I've had hamstring injuries in the past, and you don't want to be playing with those doubts. If I was Conor Whelan, yeah, clearly you want to play. It's a massive game in Salthill, but if he pulls it again or aggravates it, he could potentially miss 5, 6, 7 weeks and miss maybe most of the championship. So it's a big decision for Henry to make, and I can't see them risking him if they feel there's a possibility that he does major damage to it and it's not fully right or not fully healed. So it's a big call to make. Obviously, it's the biggest decision probably Henry has to make. I think most of the rest of the team probably picks itself. They tweak things a little bit for the Westmeath match, and obviously got the Wexford game out of their system pretty emphatically early on. But Whelan is, without Joe Kenny especially, he's the guy for me that makes his forward line tick, and I think they'll struggle to win and beat Kilkenny if they don't have him available. That looks unlikely at this point in time. Yeah,
well, conversely, they'll think if we sort of relatively well handle TJ Reid, we'll win this game.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, listen, TJ, it's I think unrealistic for us all to keep expecting TJ to do what he's been doing for most of the last decade, 12, 13, 14 years, however many years he's on the scene now. Because I think there was maybe evidence last year that he possibly has lost a step. Now look, he's still in unbelievable physical condition, but at some point your powers have to wane, and while he still brings all that experience, all that know-how, the vision, the awareness, the ability to pick out the pass, he probably still has lost a step. And whether he can keep doing what he's done for Kilkenny at the level he has, I think it's unrealistic. But Owen Cody has really, I think, progressed. He's a quality forward. He's big, he's strong, he's able to win his own ball. And Walter Walsh looks rejuvenated. Pádraig Walsh, to me again, just was a great wing back. I don't think centre back suited him, and I think up front I think Kilkenny get more out of him because again he's busy. He works hard. He's a shooter. He's vision. He's awareness. And I think I think that half forward line, with Wally, who looks rejuvenated, looks to have found got his mojo back, Pádraig Walsh, and whoever else they play, whether it's John Donnelly, whether it's Mossy Keown, whether it's TJ, whether it's Adrian Mullen. I mean, they've plenty of Cody has plenty of options in terms of the jigsaw pieces or the chess pieces and where he can move them. So I don't think Kilkenny are as reliant on TJ. And I think, as I said, you might find him just maybe been the provider rather than the finisher on Sunday.
Yeah, Cody and Mullen won 11 between them the last year. Just very briefly, if there were a tactical rabbit to be pulled out of the hat by either of the managers here, these two great friends back in the days, two rivals now, like, what is there anything we can expect? That's something different? Galway are an evolving team, obviously. Kilkenny, we know what to expect from them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, look, obviously the managers know each other well and probably have a good insight into the way they think. I mean, Cody, I'd say, is notorious for you get a rookie corner back and suddenly Henry Shefflin is corner forward, or you know what I mean. So I think like obviously Henry will have Jack Grealish as a man marker. Obviously he knows Owen Cody inside out. He knows TJ inside out. Given their club ties. So Henry would be well placed in terms of, okay, well, Jack Grealish mightn't be suited to Owen Cody because, or maybe he's better suited to TJ, or vice versa. Henry will, I think, be trying to get those matchups right. But, Cody's not shy as well about, again, maybe it's getting somebody that's got aerial ability on Darren Morrissey on the edge of the square, trying to get Dahi Burke out of there. So, I think we'll have to wait until Sunday. I don't expect to see anything really radical, Johnny. I think both sets of players know each other fairly well, and I think the teams that line out will be pretty similar to what took the field last weekend.
Who wins?
For me, Kilkenny. Galway, there's just any consistency. I mean, I'm still not convinced, Johnny, that all these new players are for example, operating at the same level as some of the guys they've replaced. Keenan Fahy, I thought was pretty average in Wexford Park, didn't play well. Obviously, Ronan Glennon is the last lead a really good league. Evan Nyland, again,
has to step up from play.
Very, very accurate, but he has to do more from play for me. So I still think Kilkenny are, where the floor is, Johnny. You know that Kilkenny will play to a certain level. Galway could shoot the lights out, or they mightn't necessarily, be where it's required. But look at Insult Hill, it's a home game. It's, they're hard to beat up there. They have a good record against Kilkenny up there. But for me, I think Cody won't want to lose to Henry, and I think they have a bit more quality on the pitch, and I think Kilkenny narrowly.
Yeah, I think some of them Galway forwards, if they needed any motivation in the sense of the talk about all the reliance on Conor Whelan and post Joe Canning and all this, they certainly don't need it at this stage because it's been talked in the week, and we'll see if they respond. But let's get to Simple Stadium, 2 o'clock. Are they beginning to believe in Clare a little bit after the Tip game?
Yeah, I fancied this, Johnny. I thought that, look at, Brian is getting the best out of the players. They're very united, very together. And I mean, you take Tony Kelly. I mean, whatever buttons he's pressed with Tony over the last, since he took the helm, Tony's been unbelievable. And
1-7 the last day.
Yeah, but brilliant to win without Tony having to shoot the lights out. Obviously he converted the penalty and Ailey's freeze and got a couple from play. But what was, I suppose, really positive from a Clare perspective was that Shane O'Donnell and Peter Duggan, we knew they were back.
But they're back.
At what level? Back.
Exactly.
Yeah. And could they play to the level that they played to in 2018 or 19? And they delivered that answer pretty emphatically. I mean, Duggan to come back from Australia, get minimal game time in the league because of injury, and be the nuisance that he was fantastic. And obviously Shane is one of those electrifying players, Johnny. And there was a real concern with the concussion issue that we mightn't see him, that maybe his days in the Clare jersey were done. So for him to play, and again, just to produce a few bits of magic that he did, because he's got that vision, he's got that ability to break tackles and give the pass. I thought he was excellent. And yeah, it's a huge boost for Clare. I mean, we're missing Aidan McCarthy, down Mark Rogers, who we've great hopes for in the county. So felt that maybe we were a bit weakened going into the game, and the question was, could the two lads step up and get back to the levels they did? So that's a big plus heading into Sunday.
Psychologically, right, so I was just looking at Fintan O'Toole on Twitter. From the 38th minute, Limerick outscored Cork 16 points to 5 after a decent start. Now, psychologically for me, that must be hard to take.
Yeah, I think Cork were in Fora last weekend. Obviously they were off, and I'd imagine there was a lot of soul searching being done, because this is a make or break game, Johnny. I mean, they've got to go to Walsh Park. Okay, you'd expect them to beat Tip, in Thurles in the last game. Tip looked like their chances of getting out now are probably minimal, given the scoring difference at the weekend and so on. They've got to play Limerick, obviously. So yeah, it's a massive game for Cork. Huge game, and obviously, when your character is questioned, when your work rate, when your honesty, when those values that every team probably cherishes and are nailed on the dressing room wall, when those things have been questioned, generally produce a response, and that's the worry I have from Clare now, that Cork are really backed into a corner. I mean, obviously the positives of getting to the All-Ireland final last year and feeling that they were making progress, and again the league obviously getting the win in over Limerick, you feel you've narrowed the gap, and then you go out and lose the league final and you effectively get bullied by Cork. There's questions about no movement from the forwards, the short puck outs, backs them to turn and give it back to the keeper because there's nothing on further up the field. The lateral sense of their play, they're passing the ball around the full back line, and because the options weren't there, the movement wasn't there further up the field. I mean, the Cork backs have to be seriously asking questions of their Cork forwards, like, why wasn't the movement there? Why didn't these guys adhere to the game plan? Because clearly a lot of planning goes into the way they're trying to play. So,
well, actually, on that, so does he completely change it here? Because there's one thing taking on Limerick and their half back line, there's another thing taking on Clare, and the puck out situation maybe will change because they were so poor in that regard the last day.
Yeah, that's the thing. Does he stick or twist? And defensively, like, obviously some of their defenders, don't defend particularly well. I mean, Mark Coleman is brilliant going forward, but he doesn't seem to be the answered sweeper. He's obviously, when he's ran at, he's not a good tackler, and Tim O'Mahony isn't a particularly good tackler either. Again, looking brilliant on the ball, brilliant going forward, but sometimes, and even their forward line, Johnny, it's about the balance in the team, and you can have 6 brilliant stickmen, but if you haven't got the workhorses to win the ball and do the dirty work and lay it off, it doesn't work, and that's where Cork, for me, particularly up front, haven't got the balance right. They've plenty of shooters, they've plenty of guys that'll put the ball into your eye if you give them time and if you give them room, and there's huge pace in the team. But if Clare turn into a war, if Clare make the middle third crowded, congested, if they're physical, will Cork be able to play through it? And Cork have pretty much had Clare's number, Johnny. That's again, like, you go back to the 2018, 2019 Munster finals, or 2017, and 18, I think it was. We lost 2 Munster finals to Cork. We were in the game in both of them, particularly at half time, and the second one could have won it. They obviously beat us last year, albeit they took a great save from Patrick Collins at the end. But they have a great record against us, and they won't fear us the way they would, obviously, Limerick or maybe even Waterford. And we maybe don't arguably have the same physicality in the middle third to bully Cork the way that maybe Limerick and Waterford can. But, we certainly have other attributes. And, there's no doubt about it. Like, if we play as well as we did last weekend, we're going down with a 50-50 chance and a genuine chance of taking another scalp.
Just briefly, is it a bit daft that the two big games are on at the same time? If you're a hurling fan, if you really do want to watch these two games this weekend, there's so much of a narrative in both.
Yeah, I mean, like, we'd all love to be, going to Salt Hill on Saturday night, or even heading down to Thurles on Saturday night. I mean, I think that the appetite is there for these big games, Johnny, and there aren't too many of them over the course of the hurling season. And certainly the fact that they're both on simultaneously, means that obviously we won't be able to watch both of them at the same time. I think that certainly, if even if one was available on the GA Go at 4:00, it would give hurling supporters, the option to see it. And okay, look at it, Tyrone Derry is an attractive football match, but there's still hurling people that won't watch it, and would love to the opportunity to see the other games. So possibly a trick miss that one of these games couldn't have been maybe played on Saturday evening, or alternatively, gone with the 2 and 4 o'clock starts.
I think you're tipping Clare here, yeah.
Johnny, my heart obviously wants to go with Clare. Listen, I'm obviously concerned that we see a real bounce back from Cork. that they, as I said, they have so much pace on the pitch that has troubled us in the past. And maybe we've learned something too. Maybe we're better equipped now to deal with that. I mean, obviously Jack O'Connor, ran away from Rory Hayes last year. Do they start him at the weekend? He's been out of form. Obviously he had a great year last year, but he hasn't kicked on and appears to be low on confidence. Again, do they make some radical moves? Do they shove Tim O'Mahony further forward? Does Mark Coleman go to the wing? Do they rejig it and bring shift O'Mahony into centre back? I don't know. Big questions for Cork. But if Clare can get ahead, Johnny, and if Clare can sow some seeds of doubt in the minds of those Cork players, I just fancy that we might come out the right side of it. But it's really too close to call, and again, I'm genuinely that's the way I see it. It's not sitting on the fence.
And finally, just to close the whole, like, the Cody Shefflin situation, obviously a lot of people will expect Henry Shefflin to manage Kilkenny down the line. It won't be next year or whatever, but like, is there any sort of a narrative in the Leinster Championship this year, if Galway completely get the upper hand over Kilkenny, that the end might be nigh?
I think Brian has at this stage now deserved to he's earned the right, I think, to decide when he's ready to walk away. And I look at Kilkenny over the last
that point
years,
though, like, you could say the same about Mickey Hart though. Like, does a manager actually earn the right? Nobody is bigger than the actual entity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I accept that, Johnny. But you look at his record, and is he still getting the best out of the players available to him? Are they still playing for him and for the jersey? I don't think there's any doubt about that.
100%.
They've won the last two Leinster championships. They were, even last year against Cork, down, still found a way to take it extra time. And I don't think he has the same talent available as he did 10 years ago. I mean, certainly up front, the wealth of forward talent that was there was incredible. And look at guys like Tommy, JJ Delaney, Henry are generational players. These guys will go down in history and the annals of the game as some of the greatest that ever played the game, Johnny. So I still think, as long as Cody feels that he's getting the best out of the players available to him, is he evolving? I think you can see that. It's not like he's stuck in the time warp. They've evolved. They're working the ball out. They're playing through the lines. They've shown they can mix it up. And I still think ultimately he's a man that has always and probably will always do what he feels is best for Kilkenny hurling. And if he still feels that he's the man to get the best out of Kilkenny, I think that while he's doing that, why wouldn't they want him at the helm? And look at it's certainly, from my perspective, at some point he obviously walks away, and when he does, it appears that Henry will have cut his teeth now in elsewhere, and appears to be an obvious candidate to replace him.
And finally, your birthday, presumably, that's around the time the Galway races, so that's where the 50th will be.
Johnny, I'm unable to divulge that. But thanks for
information.
No, Johnny, yeah, classified information.
28th of July, if you all remember, Jamesie O'Connor turns the great 5-0, 25 years after the great 97 era.
Yeah, Johnny, it goes very, very quickly. It goes very, very quickly. But look, we're looking forward to stepping out in Croke Park. Looking forward to meeting up with the lads. We don't get too many opportunities to get together and look at a really sound bunch of lads. So we have a couple of nights to look forward to in Castleknock, and we'll make a good weekend out of it. Yeah,
Michael, my producer, a big smile on his face from Clare, just thinking back to those halcyon days. Great to talk to you, Jamesy.
Cheers, Johnny. Look after yourself.